all, welcome to Radian Guidance. My name is Molly. Today I'm going to be chatting about the astrological energies for November 2022, including the total lunar eclipse in Taurus on November 8th, as well as other notable dates of the month, the energies we can expect on a social and collective level, including days of harmony and days of intensity. Enjoy. Astrology for November 2022. So we have Jupiter going direct towards the end of the month, November 23rd. It'll go direct at 28 degrees Pisces, which is its sign of dignity. Jupiter traditionally rules Pisces, so this is a really nice place for Jupiter. And it's also still going to be in that orb of conjunction with Neptune. The days of intensity of the month include the 5th, which I'll talk about in greater detail, but there's a lot of tense aspects going on that day, particularly Venus squaring Saturn and Saturn opposing Uranus, as well as the moon in a difficult aspect with Pluto. On the 6th, we have a moon square Pluto day, and these days where the moon is in hard aspect to Pluto can just be where emotions are rising high. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It can just be more intense. So how you channel that energy is really up to you. On the 8th, we have the total lunar eclipse in Taurus. If you want to learn more about eclipses and maybe how to treat those days, you can check the video I'll link in the bio, which is I have 2 videos I did with my friend Mario where we chat about the meaning, symbolism of eclipses in general, and then how to treat them, but I'll go into that chart in more detail in this chat. In November 11th, we've got the moon conjunct Mars squaring Neptune. So this can be like kind of a frenetic energy this day. There could be a little bit of restlessness, and it could be a good time to exercise, move around, take herbs that are going to be more calming to your nervous system, and avoid doing anything that's like really serious or responsible that day because it might just end up being kind of stressful. On November 18th, the moon's squaring Mars, and then we have the moon also opposing Neptune and Mars squaring Neptune. So this is another kind of day that could be more frenetic energy. Maybe not an ideal day to plan something like an important talk or something that you want to be more chill and relaxed. On November 21st, we've got moon square Pluto day. November 25th, the moon's opposing Mars. And on the 27th, we've got moon conjunct Pluto. One little note for November 25th, moon opposing Mars. Sometimes it can just feel like it's more confrontational energy on those days. Again, get it out in a more competitive way, but be aware it's just good to tune into so you can plan around that. Days of harmony. So we've got a nice grand water trine, the moon with Neptune and Jupiter, and the moon trining Venus on November 3rd. This is a really nice creative energy. There's a lot of water energy throughout the month of November. There's a lot of stelliums in water signs and trines in water signs. And these are going to be great days for tapping into your creativity, working with water energy, whether you like to go swimming if you can at this time of year, or take a bath, do some sort of prayer, do some sort of water healing. Great energy for that. On the 12th, we also have a moon trine Sun in Scorpio and Neptune in Pisces, so another grand water trine with the moon, Sun, and Neptune. Another good day for collective prayer, collective intention setting, anything that has to do with dealing with the unconscious, subconscious, dream work, astral work, etc. The November 13th, those energies kind of spill over into that day. On the 14th, we have Venus trining Jupiter. So that's one of the nicest days of the month for Venusian energy. Venus is stressed out a lot throughout this month. So on the 14th, there's a nice kind of reprieve from the difficult energy Venus is encountering, and that's kind of the energy we've been feeling in the women's issues and themes around women, feminine liberation. November 20th, we have a grand air trine with the moon, Saturn, and Mars. So just nice energy for communication, for creating something stable, because Saturn and Mars, of course, is our willpower and discipline. On the 24th, we have Sun and Moon conjunct Venus in Sagittarius. This was a really nice day for kind of higher learning. There's a lot of Sagittarian energy that day, a lot of expansive energy that day. I believe this is also the day of Thanksgiving, so it's kind of nice that it happens to be a day of harmony. On the 26th, we have Moon trining Uranus, sextiling Jupiter and Neptune. I really like the 26th as another kind of like social gathering day, just because there's nice group energy I find when the moon is in Capricorn, and it's trining Uranus, which is the planet that rules groups, organizations, anything with like networks, the internet. And it's sextiling the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces. So there's a nice balance of earth-water energy. I think it could be a really good day for any sort of thing involving a group. So we're going to move into key dates for the month in case you want a snapshot. The 5th is this kind of loaded astrological day that I'm going to talk about and use just kind of as an example chart to show the general planetary energies for the month. On November 8th, of course, the total lunar eclipse at 16 degrees of Taurus, and I'll go over that in more detail. November 23rd is the new moon in Scorpio. I'm sorry, it's actually in Sagittarius. I apologize. That's a typo. And then on November 24th, we've got Jupiter direct in Pisces. Alrighty, so Venus squaring Saturn and Saturn opposite Uranus here. Sorry, Venus opposite Uranus. So what's happening here? There's a lot of complex, challenging aspects going on. I think this is a big indicator. This is kind of leading into the eclipse. I feel like this is a big indicator of the financial instability we might be sensing, because Venus is, of course, opposing the unstable Uranus, which is still retrograde. But it's this tense aspect of almost like expecting destabilization, which is what people are kind of feeling with the inflated market right now. We also have Venus squaring Saturn in the fixed signs. So Venus is in Scorpio, squaring Saturn in Aquarius. Venus, again, its resources, its values, it's coming into a square with institutions, organizations. So we see people maybe more speaking out, wanting to protest because people are feeling that their values are not being honored or regarded by these greater structures of society. So there's definitely tension there. There's also the moon in a hard aspect with Pluto. The moon is actually widely squaring Pluto and Capricorn as well. And the moon's in Chiron, which can definitely be the spirit of like the wounded healer. And there's a lot of moon Chiron activity I noticed just throughout this month. We also have Mercury opposing Uranus as well. So there's themes carried over that I talked about from October, where Saturn's at this pivotal degree, which represents an unmasking. There's a lot of things hinting at disclosure, uncovering, revelation. And so Mercury opposing Uranus is like some news or insight that could be kind of revolutionary, shocking. It could be something even helpful, because it doesn't have to be like bad news. It's just something that is unexpected that kind of takes over the collective mind, if you will. Mercury represents communication, the mind, and where our brain nervous system's at. And if you notice, the two malefics, Saturn and Mars, throughout the whole month really are in air signs. So I think Mercury, kind of in this hard opposition to Uranus, can represent heightened nervous system sensitivity that people might be feeling. I think the malefics in the air sign connect a lot to the etheric kind of interference that we feel with EMFs and the dysregulation that all this technology can kind of impose on us. On a positive note of Mercury opposing Uranus, it could be like a revelatory kind of cutting edge development or invention or progression within science, because Uranus also represents science and institutions, that gets brought about, that potentially has like a helpful effect. Because I see that even though Mercury and Uranus are in an opposition, they are in a harmonious aspect to the Jupiter and Neptune in this chart. So there could be some potentials for healing with new innovations. We also have the square between Mars and Neptune happening in this chart as well. And I kind of talked about that being misguided martial energy, which of course we see playing out on the world stage with all this talk about missiles and weaponry. And so there's a lot of misguided Mars energy. Essentially, though, I think Mars in this case is more talk than actual bite, or more bark than bite, because it's in Gemini. So there could be a lot of like warring ideologies, lots of chat about violence, but maybe not necessarily it coming into a physical form, which would be maybe the good side of it being in air. The other thing I just want to note is that throughout the month, really, there's going to be, as you can see in this chart, like water energy. So that's really going deep into our feelings. November is a time of year where we're shedding, where they say the veils are thinner, where we're releasing before the winter solstice anything that kind of doesn't really serve us as we go into this conservation period of winter. So working on the emotional astral body, that's kind of why I included this image in the top right corner. Really just working on deeper subconscious emotional patterns within ourselves. This is a wonderful time throughout the month to do that work. We've got Mercury in the probing sign of Scorpio, which wants to go deep, wants to uncover. And on personal levels, we can really come to a lot of clarity when we can heal some past wounding and look deeper at our own habitual patterns and really feel our feelings. As we go into the eclipse this is on the 8th of November, there's two kind of general archetypes I want to point out about this eclipse. So first, I'm just going to note it's an eclipse happening with Uranus. Uranus is still retrograde, but it's happening, as you can see, the moon and the north node are right with Uranus at 16 degrees of Taurus. So Uranus and Taurus themes are definitely earth changes. It can be things like seismic activity, fixed energy in general. When you have tension between a lot of the fixed energy, like we're seeing in this eclipse chart, there's tension with Scorpio and Taurus and Saturn in the fixed sign of Aquarius. So we have this kind of like fixed T-square occurring. So when that happens, there's a lot more karma attached to the event. Eclipses can be seen as portending really intense changes. Again, check out that video if you want to delve deeper into eclipses and what they mean. So usually the effects last anywhere from 6 months to a year. This eclipse, because it's in fixed energy, the effects or impact of it really will continue throughout the year. So it's not just like something occurring on the day of the eclipse that has lasting impact, though that can be the case as well. But it's really, this is marking energetic imprint for the whole year. I will note that it's opposing Venus, right? So we have Uranus, this Venus-Uranus opposition that I just talked about, which is like a destabilization in the financial or material realm, perhaps. Uranus and Taurus wanting to bring some liberation and newness to that old stagnant energy. So Taurus, the bull, as you see, it's represented, they use that symbolism a lot in banks, financial institutions. And really where this eclipse is happening is in Aldebaran, which is a fixed star in the constellation of Taurus. And it's the third eye, essentially, of the bull. And bulls represent material, nourishment, satiation. They're these very kind of gluttonous creatures, and they represent the material realm. But this material realm, of course, is very ephemeral and fleeting. And so I think this eclipse is really inviting us that despite whatever destabilization or stress about economy that people might be feeling, it's really inviting us to go into that Venus side of the opposition in Scorpio. Look at all that Scorpio energy happening. I'm going to move my, oh, I can't. So behind the picture of me, there's this image of two dark drapes opening. And that's the Sabian symbol for 20 degrees of Scorpio. These two, it's a woman parting two dark curtains. So again, we have this theme of like unveiling and going into an uncovering of something deeper. Because the tension between Scorpio and Taurus is, of course, the material and the immaterial. So I think with Venus wanting to like open up and go into this deeper realm, and of course the eclipse happening at the third eye of the bull, it's wanting us to really like delve into our spiritual wealth, our spiritual value, the things that are not material, but are really valuable and worthwhile. And despite whatever chaos is happening in the economic realm, what is like a deeper value or truth that we can get to, a deeper gift we can be aware of? There was a bird crowing, so annoying. It was kind of distracting me that I kept talking over it. Again, we also have the Mars-Neptune square still active, though both those planets are retrograde during the eclipse. And eclipses are not necessarily a time to plan like a big ritual or a big event. It's really just a time to be open to change, be open to transformation, let go of things that might be keeping you from opening another door. They say in Vedic, I think it's Vedic or either Buddhist thought of eclipses, is that prayer is tenfold more powerful during an eclipse. So while it's not the time maybe to like mess with magic or ritual in that sense, you could argue prayer is a type of ritual, but I would say it's more like a time to just be really clear in your thoughts, be really be grateful and just observe, be aware of things that are wanting to shift and flow with it. If you happen to be born in 1985, particularly June 1985, but really I would say from like March to June, you have your North Node at or really close to 16 degrees of Taurus. So this eclipse is definitely going to impact your life in a big way. North Node is our destiny point. And it's also going to be, for that group of people, it's also going to be opposing their natal Pluto. So I think anyone born around that spring, summer 1985, take a look at what house the eclipse is happening in your chart. You're really going to feel it. And in addition, I'll just say if you were born with any personal planets or angles at the fixed near 16 degrees of the fixed signs, which are Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, you will potentially have a more dramatic change or shift in your life via this eclipse over the next year. And that kind of wraps up what I wanted to chat about. I want you to just keep in mind when I talk about days of intensity, they might just be better days for self-care. They might not be those days to plan something really important. But as always, look at your particular chart, because this is mundane astrology. I'm talking very generally when I'm doing these forecasts. Look at your particular chart, look at your own personal transits to get a better clue of these energies. I hope that this information is helpful to you. Please share any thoughts below, any insight or ideas around some of the themes this month. I always love sharing and dialoguing with you guys. Thanks so much. Please hit like and subscribe if you found this useful. Take care.